Everybody, welcome back to Secret of the Unknown. We're on episode 30. Today we're going to be talking about the land between the lake, mysteries of the Dogman, and get into some stories that have been associated or coming of this area of Kentucky, Tennessee. Um, if you have not heard about this area, there seems to be a lot of things going on. As I said, it's another national park. Um, it's a man-made lake, and we're going to get into that and talk about this creature that has been seen in the area and the murders surrounding this creature coming out of the park itself and from the mouth of the invaders who uh, worked the case and the details on what was found and the horrific events that transpired. I heard about this case back about 2 years ago when I was listening to another podcast of mine that I love to listen to, Nick Ryan, who has Paranormal Mysteries on Spotify. He did this, and it really is uh, the detailing that the officers who gave to this lady. Uh, I'll get into it. Um, but before we do that, let's get this intro going. I'll see you guys in a bit. Let's do it. All right. Well, uh, this episode, like I said, is something that I was just looking into. I just thought I'd put it out there because I haven't really done an episode in a while on creatures or cryptids or things that people have seen in the national parks themselves. I know last episode at 28 or 29, excuse me, that we did, I was talking about the national parks and the disappearance of people. Well, the one thing that caught me off guard about this story, this particular story, um, coming out of the land between the lakes, was the murder of a family that was camping in the park at the time. And this is, like I said, it's one of those things that if you hear it, you're like, okay, this can't be real, or, what the fuck is going on? Because are these people tripping? Were they just, fabricating the stories? But apparently, this thing has gotten so big that they're making movies now of this, this creature that's supposedly, wandering this national park. And I was doing some looking up of this creature, this dog man that supposedly um, is seen there in the land of the lakes, land between the lakes, excuse me. Um, this national park, national recreation area, I should say. Um, let's check this out. Really beautiful. Do, 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 do. Blue skidoo, weekend too. All right. So what we have. All right. Let's see. this out of the way. My name is Raul. Yeah. All right. So the land between the lakes is a national rec area between Tennessee and Kentucky. Uh, up a map because I just had it. There it is. All right. So if you can, you've got Kentucky and Tennessee right here, the boundaries of um, the state line, and anybody who's ever been to the or stationed in Fort Campbell, this is in our backyard, and I did not know this. Makes me mad because, as you could see, where we were living, Clarksville and Fort Campbell, it's literally right in our backyard. So as you look at this whole area is in between two lakes. This park was man-made. Um, you have Lake Barkley, which is to the east side, and you have the, that borders it on the west. Okay, and as you see, it goes from Culver City or Kawa, Lake City, North area, all the way. Ah, uh, all the way down house of 1850s, and it goes all the way through to here to the border. But obviously, the land goes a lot. It goes all the way down to Dover. But this really tripped me out because if you see, this is a lot of land, and it's not like it's just uh, out in the middle of a lake. It's surrounded by a big ass freaking ocean on either side. It's separated by rivers. Now the rivers are beautiful. They're pretty huge. You can get some. All right. So you've got extensive wildlife, beautiful lake views, big forest, bison, beautiful waterfronts. And like I said, look at this. I mean, it's not that the rivers are small; they're pretty huge. And here's a video of some people doing some camping. Beautiful aerial footage. I just wanted to give everybody an overview look of what this place looks like before I get into the story. Beautiful, beautiful scenery. All right, so I mean, you've got this area. Let's see if I could pull up the land between the lakes and get the history behind it. All right. So as you can see, it says the land between the lakes National Rec Area is a United States 171,000-acre national recreation, which is on the Kentucky and Tennessee border between Lake Barkley and Kentucky Lake. It was designed as a national rec area in 1963 by President JFK and developed using funds appropriated during the Johnson administration. Originally managed by the Tennessee Valley Authority, which constructed dams to create the two lakes in this area, the recreation area was later transformed into the administration of the United States Forest Service in 1991. It was designated, yeah, designated a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. President Donald Trump's administration withdrew it from the program as of June 2017. So you got the geography of this area. Here's a right here. That's it. Right here. Size piece of land. Come on, computer. All right. And it says the Cumberland rivers flow closely to each other in northeastern Tennessee and western Kentucky, separated by a narrow, mostly low ridge. The area of land that separates the two bodies of water has been known as the Between the Rivers since the 1830s or the 1840s. After the Cumberland River was in the 1960s, a canal was constructed between the two man-made lakes. Land between the lakes became the largest inland peninsula in the United States. Downstream from this area, of course, of the two rivers, the mouth of the Cumberland empties into the Ohio River. So here's some history. Communities which existed in the area included the Tharp and Model in Tennessee and Golden Pond, Kentucky. During the American Civil War, the Confederate government built Fort Henry on the banks of the Tennessee River in an effort to protect the upper reaches of that river from Union gunboats. Kentucky had declared its neutrality in the war, and after the Fort Henry fell to the Union forces in 1862, there was little more Civil War action in the area. Other areas were more strategically important, and the Union occupied Tennessee from 1862 to the end of the war. During the Great Depression, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt established the Tennessee Valley Authority as part of the New Deal. Specifically, the authority was to construct a series of dams for both flood control and generation of electricity throughout the rural Tennessee Valley. The project would provide much-needed jobs in the area as well as provide electricity to a large area that lacked it. With the U.S. entry into World War II, the project was also needed to satisfy electrical demand from the aluminum industry for the war effort. The site of the last dam downstream on the Tennessee River was to be Gilbertsville, Kentucky. The resulting impoundment, completed in the early 40s, resulted in the Kentucky Lake. Because the project would result in flooding of some of the low-lying land on the western side of the area, the TVA exercised eminent domain, condemning some of the properties and forcing the removal of approximately 800 families from their homes. As a result, entire towns, including Birmingham, Kentucky, were flooded and are now underwater. So I've seen similar results like this in California, where they've had to, execute eminent domain. The government comes in there and tells people, "Hey, look, you can leave. You can't stay here anymore. Get your shit. Let's go." They kick them off of their land and pretty much just, take over, build, and do whatever the hell they got to do. So some of the residents were outraged about these actions, while others were happy to sell their land and start a new life in a less remote area. Obviously, the government was paying these people. The government was telling them, "Hey, look, we're gonna give you money for your property for what it's worth," and I'm pretty sure it was worth more than what the fuck they gave them. And they moved. Some people did not. They did not want to leave the area. plan called for a new dam. Okay, so what they did was is that they dammed up the river. All right, and it, you know, obviously they were going to use the dam for electrical purposes, as it said during World War II, and it gave a lot of business to the aluminum industry that because of what was going on, they were, conserving metal, you know, scraps and all kinds of shit because they needed it to build, ammunition and plane parts or whatever. So the evacuation of the residents from the entire former between the rivers area, not only of which was to be flooded, was to be developed as the land between the lakes national rec area to produce a multiple use approach to recreational lands. Is that this area, this land, and everything was already here. People were living there happily for hundreds of years. Why was nothing? I don't know if this story goes back thousands or hundreds of years to earlier settlers. I know it does in certain other areas, but the story that I'm going to get into, this is something that I had just heard about and thought it was kind of trippy because, like I said, I've never heard of anything like this happening where there were witnesses or mutilations of people witnessed by law enforcement agencies uh, to something so horrific. So, like I said, I just wanted to give a background of why this area is called Land Between the Lakes, why it was formed. But like I said, this just makes no sense to me that these people are living here. The government's just going to come in and say, okay, we're going to kick you out. We're going to build something here and flood your town and make a land project for a recreational area. That to me just seems really odd, really odd. I don't understand why you would want to do that unless they knew something was there or something was going on. That's what I'm saying. I need to look into this further as far as the history of the Dogman in this area. But like I said, I just wanted to touch on this and get into it because, like I said, this story just really blew me away. So here we have, the background of why this area was made, and the recreational area was built um, by the government. Um, it says the United States Army Corps of Engineers constructed a dam on the Cumberland, producing another lake. It was planned to be at the same elevation as Kentucky Lake, and the two rivers were to be connected by a canal that did not require locks. This project was intended to lessen the shipping distance for goods going from the Cumberland Valley to the ports of the Gulf of Mexico, thus increasing their profitability. The dam on the Cumberland, resulting in Lake Barkley, and a canal were completed in the 60s, and the lake was named after Alvin W. Barkley, a Kentucky politician who had served as Vice President Harry S. Truman, yada yada. All right. So they built this lake and decided that they were going to flood this area that they had deemed um, worthy of building a recreational area. So I understand that part, why they did it. But if this dog man, you know, how long was this creature being seen here? That's just the thing I'm trying to figure out here. Is the 19 dam was constructed during that time? I'm trying to figure this out because it's really trippy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to I'm gonna read this story. Um, does not get into detail. It does, but it doesn't. So I'm just gonna, read it. If you've heard anything like this, let me know. Um, I, like I said, this is like when I heard this, it would just blew me away. But bear with me. So I don't know if it, you can still hear it, me over this music sound or whatever. See what's going on here. This music sound or whatever. Hopefully you could still hear it. Hopefully you can still hear it. All right. So this story is coming out of a Tennessee newspaper. Oops. All right. So hold on here real quick. Is coming out of Tennessee newspaper. All right. So all right. So this is coming from a group called the Haunted Tennessee Haunted Legends: The Beast of the Land Between the Lakes. Coming out of Golden Pond, Kentucky, WKRN, stories of supernatural encounters in densely forested areas are not uncommon here in the national park located just beyond the Tennessee border, and it is no exception. Nestled deep in the land between the lakes, the national park, LBL, lies a creature terrifying enough to strike the fear into lifelong law enforcement officers, campers, and seasoned hikers alike. According to historian and paranormal enthusiast Lyle Russell, described a tall, hairy, wolf-like creature that walks on two legs and could be smelled from a great distance away, with glowing red eyes dating back to the early 1700s. So we do have some historical uh, aspect to what we are talking about here. Hold on. All right. So this creature is is in fact being seen, since has been seen since the 1700s. There were tales of Native American curses on white settlers who stole the land from local tribes, as well as haunting and mysterious floating orbs in several of the more than 220 family cemeteries in this area. Now, this goes back to the the history of it is that there are. Hold on, hold on. You still there? All right. So, all right. So the stories that when I heard this, for the first time, like I said on this podcast of Paranormal Mysteries with Nick Ryan, was that the natives there had put a curse, like it says here, had put a curse on the people, the settlers that were there coming into their land because the native tribes that were around on that area, the settlers had pushed them, slaughtered, a number of these tribal people and got them off of that land, and they cursed it. It says, while some descriptions of the creature vary to its estimated size, most accounts occur that it has glowing red eyes and extremely aggressive behavior, according to Russell. The most credible and modern report of the beast comes from the late 1980s. Now, this is the story I heard. Okay, I tripped out because I listened to this episode on his show multiple times, and I love it because it's very detailed and it's very creepy and it's very sad. Because when you hear what happens, it'll blow you away. So, during the 1980s, a gas station attendant, Mrs. Jane Thompson, said two of her regulars at her store, both police officers, once stopped late at a night, once stopped late at night, visibly shaken from seeing a crime scene of something they could not explain. According to her handwritten accounts of the men's story, they were called to assist on a remote site investigation in the park. When they arrived on the scene, the carnage left behind was devastating. The officers had seen bodies torn apart at the ruined campsite. Other investigators identified at least 3 victims, likely a mother, a father, and one child, before a fourth victim was also found, similarly ripped apart nearby. Keep that in mind. This other child was found nearby, but not in the campsite with the family. It gets really bad. The coroner on the scene said the victims had to be torn apart by teeth and claws. Now, the reason why he says this, and it's not descripted in this, okay, this is just they're just putting out the details quickly. But the story is this: some people that were there in the campsite had stumbled upon these people's campsite because if you go to campsites, they're by a lake or they're by a river or something. They're spaced out. They're not together. And these people were on a hike and they went to go see if this family that was next to them or near them was there, and they happened to see this god awful mess. They went back to go try and find their nearest phone. They called the law enforcement officers. The law enforcement officers came out. The law enforcement officers cordoned off the area. They started doing a search. They noticed that, okay, the mutilations of the bodies in correlation to the wounds that were on the bodies did not match anything. It was not a bear. It was not a wolf. It was not a cougar. It was not a mountain lion. It was not any animal that they could. They knew it had to be something with 5 hands. Okay, and the mouth bite marks on it were of a canine bite mark, but the mouth radius was too big to be that of a wolf. The 2 officers that Jane Thompson said that she seen or she got the eyewitness accounting from were seasoned officers. They had visited her gas station regularly because they were in town. When they would be on their beat, they would stop by, get coffee, discuss, talk with her, and visit with her. This night, when they came back in, what they left out is in the podcast, what she says is this: the officers came in visibly shaken. The seasoned officer, who was older than his partner, who was outside of the gas station, was throwing up was crying, had tears in his eyes. He was shaken, was vomiting outside of the gas station. The seasoned officer was very shaken up himself. She said he was pale, he was sweating, he looked like a person who had seen something that he would wish he could forget. Um, and he got his coffee. He went outside. She went outside and followed him and asked him, "Is there anything I could do for you? Do you need me to get you anything?" He said to her, "You'll never believe what we seen tonight." And this is when he goes into the description of what they had seen. The coroner on the scene said the victims had to be torn apart by teeth and claws, but that the bite marks were far too large for that to be of a mountain lion or a wolf. Bears also were not native to this area, so it was unlikely to be from a bear attack. Whatever the creature was, did it whatever the creature was that did it, it had to be with a much larger snout than a bear, the coroner said. No matter what and however, all the investigators swore to each other never to mention what happened the night to anyone, especially any media outlets. And the theory says that the identities of the victims' supposed beast remains unknown to this day. There's also one report of a supposed survivor of the beast. A man known only as Roger claimed he encountered the creature in 1982. Before I get into this, I just want to get back to the story. So the officers were called out. They were one of the first ones, besides another park ranger that had assisted them. They were there. They cordoned off the area. They noticed that the campsite was distraught. It was all messed up. The father was laying outside. He was on the ground. He was torn apart. His arms and his legs. It was one arm was missing. Both of his legs, or one or the other, had been torn out. He had his head was torn off, and he had gouge marks in his torso. His innards were torn, laid out in the campsite area. The mother was inside of the trailer with the other one of the sons. Yes, the son. The trailer door and the trailer itself had gouge marks on it, where it looked like the aluminum of the trailer had been ripped open by something that had torn it, claw marks. And the door was open. They could see the son was laying in there. He had gouge marks and bite marks on him. The mother had gouge marks and bite marks on her. Um, but it looks like the father had taken the brunt of the attack, because he initially, was outside with this creature, and looks like the son and the mom had tried to go inside. Now, when they were looking around, they had noticed that the family, they had thought it was just three, but they noticed that there was a little girl's clothing, a dress of some type, but they could not identify the body. So what they decided to do was is that they needed to start doing a search, because if there was another victim around, they needed to try and find and locate this body, which officers who were there that were already like going on. They couldn't fathom what they were seeing already. And to add to the horror, now they had a little girl who was gone. The officers said that when they were searching and they were looking around, they spread out in teams because more officers ended up coming to the site. There, after they had done the search, and one of the officers said that he heard a scream that he wishes to God that he had never heard before or ever again. The officer was about half a miles away from the campsite, and he says that he was searching around. He happened to just be sitting under, walking around thinking, we're not gonna. I just pray to God we just don't find this child. I hope that she's safe somewhere and she's okay. He hears a tick, tick, tick on his hat, and as he looks up, he notices that there's dripping. He's like, it's not raining, but it's blood coming from a tree. Now, this is what tripped me out because I'm like going, okay, she's in the tree, there's blood. The little girl had been mauled, eaten. Her innards were hanging out. She was ripped up from her face and her neck and her torso area. Um, and she had been placed, like impaled in the tree at the very top. So what they were trying to figure out is okay, this is getting really fucking weird because now not only do we have these people that were mauled by something, torn apart, but now we have this little girl who was just found up in a tree, mauled to death, and impaled on the tree. So when the officers left, they were saying that government officials actually came to the site, okay? We're telling the officers and those that were there on scene, including the coroner and including those, they didn't even let people come in, the coroner, the ambulances come in to take the bodies out because they wanted to investigate it themselves. Also, what was said inside of the story is that the bodies had some unusual remnants of this fur or hair that was left behind from whatever the heck it was that they found on the bodies and in the trailer and in the tree that was connected to what they found at the campsite. And when they did do testing of this, it came back as a canine species but of unknown origin. And that to me is what really attracted my attention because I was like, okay, well, you've got evidence of whatever did it from two different sites, from one attack that connects this creature to both incidences because like I said, the campsite area was where the Dogman mutilated the family, the dad, the brother, and the mom. Okay, and then it chased this girl and took her to the top of this tree, ate her, and impaled her, like left her there. So when this officer was back at the gas station, this is everything that he told her. She wrote it down, and today the gas station's not there, but the people, the little boy that used to go there, he's a grown man now. He has the bench that was at that gas station. He owns it now, and he kept it because when they demolished the gas station, he wanted to keep something, so he decided he wanted to keep the bench, and that was the bench where the gas station attendant Jane decided she was gonna have the officers sit down and tell her what was going on. So, like I said, when I heard this story, I like it might just be a story. I'm not sure. But this is just one incident uh, that happened in the park where, I'm like, what the hell? Hold on. Let me try and I got Matt Gura on here. All right. Let me know if you could see that. I got some people getting on here, and I don't want them on here. I just hate it when you get these troll people that come on and they're just like, ooh. All right. So there's another incident that happened in 1982. I'm going to get into. It says there is also one report of a supposed survivor of the beast. A man known as also known as Roger, claimed he encountered the creature in 1982. Roger claims he was about to start some target practice shooting with the shotgun in the park when he heard a family he was traveling with shouting. Upon exiting the motorhome they traveled in, he saw the son, Stephen, killed by a large black hairy creature. The father, Levi, reportedly grabbed Roger's shotgun and fired at the animal, hitting it in its shoulder and forcing it to drop Stephen onto the ground. But the shot was not enough to kill the creature, and it lunged forward after Levi in anger, mauling him before throwing him to the ground and turning for Roger, who was behind the door of the motorhome. Roger then grabbed his shotgun and fired at the creature, hitting it again in the shoulder area but closer to the neck. According to Roger, the creature then let out a blood-curdling growl and went out for the mother and daughter of the family next, Diane and Connie. They were hidden inside the camper, but the beast broke the back window of the vehicle and slaughtered the two women. Roger had managed to crawl underneath the camper, above the drive shaft, listening to the beast kill Diane and Connie. According to Roger's story, the beast was able to take Connie's body with him, but did not get very far. As Roger shot at the creature and wounded it gravely. Connie's body was found about 50 feet away from the camper, and the creature managed to climb up a large tree before it too perished. So these are just stories, incidences that have been reported by that were in the area, that had seen the creature or had known about the creature, but was quickly, I guess you could say, thrown under the thrown to the wayside because of government cover-ups of whatever this beast or this creature is that in the lakes, in the land between the lakes, more or less. A lot of people have said they have seen a beast roaming these lands between these lakes in this national park. There was a picture that I had posted on the story site where there is a person standing with their foot next to this, looks like a dried water pathway or river or whatever, and there's a dog-like imprint next to their foot, like something had stepped in there and it dried out. This is something that people have seen a lot. People have seen something while they've been driving. Areas and national park areas known as Land Between the Lakes covers over 267 square miles of natural woodland. So it's split by the Tennessee and Kentucky border, as I said before. And the park is popular outdoors and destination that hosts 1.5 million visitors annually. So it doesn't have its lack of smorgasbord, I guess you can say, for, not trying to be funny, but a handful of these visitors have encountered a cryptid-like creature describing as a Bigfoot or a Dogman or a werewolf. While those three have striking differences, each has been reported at different times throughout the history of the park. The first incident, well, to discuss is related by, like I said, this Jane Thompson, who gave this account of the officers who came to her shop at 3 in the morning. Um, like I said, they were before them was a parked motorhome with a door hanging on by one of the hinges, a campfire lit immediate vicinity that whoever was camping there surely flashlight beams were splitting the usually silent forest surrounding the campsite, and occasional illuminating the appeared of bloody body or bloody handprints on the walls of the motorhome. The bloody handprints were significant to the carnage they witnessed as they walked into the site. The body parts were strewn everywhere, shredded clothing, several limbs, and internal organs were thrown about like confetti at a child's party, and many on the scene had already lost their composure and their dinner in the gruesome scene. As the officers had reported, people were not able to handle staying on the site. Um, Adam and Bill, who were the name of the officers that were talking to the gas station attendant, um, and other officers on scene, what had happened, he told them a newlywed couple on a hike had discovered, just like I said, they were camping in the area, had discovered the what they were looking at and fled into town to call the police. So they identified the three separate bodies, a father and mother, and with their young son, best they could tell by what the remains were suggesting. They weren't sure what the murder weapon was that caused such devastation, but the coroner overheard the report and interrupted them with an answer. He stated there was no murder weapon that could have done this and that the bodies had been torn apart by teeth and claws. Adam asked if there was a bear attack. The officer said bears were not native to this area, so that ruled them out. But anything was, he added, it may have been a mountain lion or a wolf. The coroner dismissed that explanation and said these are not from a mountain lion or a wolf. The teeth and jaws are far too big for a bite this size. The coroner showed Adam and Bill on a large portion of what was identified as the father's torso, four distinct cut marks made by claws, at least 2 inches long. 2 inches. But the bites are what confuses me, said the coroner. The depth of the jaws are much larger than a bear, meaning that the beast had a longer snout. So when he bit into the father, it made it was longer. He could see the canines in the front. Suddenly, an officer burst from the ransacked motorhome holding up a little girl's dress. He shouted, "There's a fourth one! Look for a little girl! We might have a survivor!" They regained as much professionalism as they could and renewed their search, and the officers formed a line and marched into the surrounding woods, calling for anyone who could still see or still might be out there. After a few minutes, a shrieking scream pierced the night. Bill ran towards the scream alongside with the other officers. He and Adam first met at the scene. When they came upon Adam, he was kneeling at the ground and sobbing like a child. Bill shined his light onto Adam's face and asked what made him scream. His tears streaked through the wet blood on his face, which had dripped from on top of it from the tree above. Adam pointed up, and he said the flashlight beam traveled up near by the trunk, and he said, "There's something up there." The officers jumped back. Dangling from a high limb was a small, lifeless, and on the other side of it, a pale leg with a still over the foot. They had found the little girl, and she did not survive. Shortly after they had taken down her body from the tree, the coroner said her tiny body had been partially devoured, and clumps of dark brown grayish hair were clinging in her hands and on the bark of the tree. The animal had done this, but what kind? They had no idea. Hours of trying to make sense of everything that they had seen. Dark vehicles came up to the road with a new team of investigators to relieve the officers. They gave explanation and explicit instructions of not to speak of anything or any incidences relating to this matter. About a month later, Adam and Bill returned to the gas station where Jane was working, and taking a break from their patrol, she describes them as being different after their harrowing experience. No longer jovial or friendly, but quiet, serious, and withdrawn. They told her that lab tests from the crime scene determined that the hair and saliva samples could not be matched to any known species of animal, and the closest comparison was from canine lupus, a wolf, and that I should be careful. They explained to her never to mention to anyone that what they had told her, and what they had said had happened that night. The land between the lakes has a long history of strange occurrences since the early 1700s, and there has been talk of Native American curses on the white settlers from among the area of hauntings and of orbs being seen for the 220 family cemeteries. Another account says the beast is an early European settler who moved with his family to the remote area because of an illness that kept him from controlling his night rages and was not fit to live in a populated society. Ooh. The second account comes from a group of college students from Murray State University who took a weekend off to camp in the pristine wilderness of the land between the lakes. On their first night, the young men built a fire and were enjoying the evening when one walked out into the trees to answer the call of nature. He was gone long after the others, and what he should have been, and they called out to him. The student came back into the firelight wearing a terrified look and claiming he was being watched, and they had heard growls and sniffing coming from the darkness beyond. His friends laughed and teased him of being afraid of the dark, or that he encountered a wild hog or something other benign woodland creature, and dismissed the notion. As the night wore on, they started just beyond the light of their fire in the surrounding woods. At first, it was a rustling of leaves like an animal was passing by, but they kept hearing it and quickly determined it was not passing, but encircling them. Each time they shined their flashlight towards the sound, all they would see was the beam of their light on the tree trunk as a quick blur from the shape or form was seen going about them. They began to believe their friend that something was out there, and that's when the howling began. A piercing, wailing howling erupted from the brush behind them. They spun to see where it was coming from all around them, and the sound erupted again behind them. Whatever it was circling them swiftly. Then they caught random glimpses of what they thought were red eyes running through the dark, and terror finally overtook them. They piled into their Volkswagen van and sped out of the sight, abandoning all of their gear to get away. As the van emerged into the main road, one of the students looked out the back window to see a large black shape emerge onto the road and chase behind them. As the driver pressed harder on the gas pedal, the VW engine was no match for the creature's speed. A jolt shook the van as if something had grabbed onto it and was holding it back. The driver pressed the pedal all the way to the floor, breaking free of whatever it was and never letting off until they were far from the park. Upon returning to the camp, the terrified students looked at the back to find the metal around the engine hatch was completely crumbled and cut through with deep gouges that appeared to be claws. Authorities dismissed this claim as a drunken weekend in the woods. Now you got one more. I think this was the one. Yeah, this is Roger's story. But this, I mean, it seems really out there. But as I said before, I mean, how many times have we seen something that is, coming from national parks? Um, you have all this land that is out here. You have all this land that was desecrated. They flooded it, decided to make these two rivers. I mean, you've got all these people that were forced off of their land for this public domain, and it's like you also have the native lore that's woven into it, and then you have the theory too that when they moved the cemetery of the original settlers that were there that had lived there for hundreds of years. I mean, this goes back all the way back to, the Revolutionary War. That not all of these people were dug up properly, and a lot of them weren't even taken out of the cemetery. So now you have all these bodies that are laying underneath this lake, okay, and have not been exhumed. So you have these sightings of this paranormal activity that these people are seeing around this lake, of orbs or ghostly figures or things that are said to be haunting these woods. And now you're throwing in this theory that there is a creature that is lurking in these woods, that is a dogman that has been seen by other people. There was a picture, let me see if I could pull this up, that I found that shows what people, this is like the only picture that I could find um, of what somebody had taken. I mean, it looks fucking crazy, but like I said, it was what they the only it was the only picture that popped up, a clear one anyway. So this is one that I had found that was on there that was the clearest one that somebody had captured. I think it was off a trail cam and they ended up blowing it up. But I mean, if this thing is out there, I mean, if the theory is true and the stories are true and what people are seeing is true, and there's a creature that is out there that's like a wolf, is it a shapeshifter? Is it a native thing? Is it something that was placed on this land, a curse from Native Americans, the tribes that were there because of what the settlers had done to them because they were, uh, you know, taken from their land. They were kicked off of their land. I know one of my friends was getting on and he was saying, "Holy shit, man! I didn't realize like you were doing this." Uh, he was saying that he lived in that area, and like I said, I mean, a lot of us stationed uh, in Fort Campbell. I had no idea that this place was right in our backyard. And I wish I would have known because I sure as hell would have loved to have gone and checked this checked this out because it would have been so cool. All right, let me see. I think I'm gonna bring everybody on from the other site. It'll work. Sending data. But I mean, let me know what you think. I mean, do you think that there's something that could be out there lurking around in these lakes? Are these people just making up stories to benefit themselves to be able to say, you know, look at me, this is something that I'm just doing for popularity or for attention. I mean, if you've got a lot of this stuff being seen by, multiple people, it, and you're getting videos and you're getting pictures. I mean, what is the benefit of somebody lying, or officers for that matter, lying about this story, this case, or this instance of this happening back in the early, 80s, late 70s, of this family that was mutilated by something and they couldn't determine what it was? Now, jumping back into the, the secrets that are being hidden around national parks. I mean, what is it with these national parks? I mean, there's so much stuff that we don't know. Literally, all we know is that the government makes, designated land, um, because of the, like a wilderness preserve, to preserve these landmarks or these areas for future generations. But what is really going on in these national parks? I mean, you've got things that are lurking around out there. Is it some sort of a buffer between society and is it a way to keep us, you know, uh, away and give it some space? Is it like an agreement that the government made with these things to ensure that people aren't, these things aren't leaving these areas? And they're like, you know, if you stay here, we'll give you this area and we'll leave it be, and you can take a few people here and there at a time, but it's not going to get out of hand. I mean, and what's going on here? I mean, are people just losing their minds? Are they tripping out? Differ and say that there is a a hint of truth to what people have seen and what they are seeing around this area, especially land between the lakes. Because you got to remember that with some bit of legend, there's a little tad bit of truth. That there's not a, somebody just dressed up, trying to sit there and scare people. I think that we are seeing, or people are witnessing, something supernatural that we can't explain with our rational minds. But does that mean that there is not, in fact, something out there? Does that mean that we are correct and they are wrong by saying that there's something like a giant, wolf-like creature and killing people? Are they lying? I mean, are they wrong? I think uh, what we try to do in society is rationalize this stuff, and say, well, it has to be something to do with, a bear or a wild animal, because it makes us feel better. We don't want to sit here and think about something scary going on or something being in national parks that's devouring people, especially little children. And, you know, it's like they say in war that people don't want to, they would rather think of butterflies and rainbows and, happy times and good things, that they don't want to think about creepy things, especially when it comes to children, that there's something that's out there that's lurking around, devouring people. And to think that there is actually things out there that are being hidden in these national parks from the locals, uh, and I mean, just people in general. What's the deal? Like, what's happening here? I mean, I can't fathom that it's just a coincidence that a lot of this stuff does happen on, you know, state parks, nature preserves, areas like this where, things are supposed to be beautiful. Things are supposed to be alluring. You go out there and you're sitting on the beach and you're like looking over on this lake. You're camping with your family. It's supposed to be a good, great time. And lo and behold, there's a dark secret to these national parks. And as I said before, this place, this land between the lakes, is just one incident. This is just one story. The ones I just told you about, the family that went there and the hikers that were camping in the area happened to stumble upon this family's campsite where these bodies were mutilated and torn apart, and this poor child was found impaled on this tree and ripped apart. And luckily, they were able to find evidence of this thing's hair in this child's hand, and the saliva pieces that were in the flesh of the victims. They were able to analyze it, which you can actually still, I believe, if it hasn't been taken, which I'm pretty sure it is gone, but the evidence was there in the archives of the state rec facility, or whatever it is, or natural wildlife and game services, or whatever it is. But they have what people have found and collected in these national parks from whatever the hell is lurking in the woods, and came up the same way as it did as the families, from a canine species that is of unknown origin. Pretty weird. Pretty weird. And as I said before, I mean, it just brings up a lot of questions of, uh, the going ons in our state parks and our national parks, and these areas of remote, you know, these remote sites that are just, you know, hundreds of miles of wilderness that could be hiding anything that the public is not savvy to, because they don't, there's areas of national parks where people are never going to be able to go. Like Yosemite, you have like these grand tours where they take you up to the waterfalls. You can go hike up Half Dome and walk up there, yada yada. I mean, people have died, horrible deaths in Yosemite and in those areas. But as I said before in the last episode, you have people like these park rangers who they've worked there all their life. They were there for 20 something years, and this poor woman is goes missing for like 10 days, I think it was. It made the news. It was in the newspapers, Fresno Bee. She went missing, and they found her body like 12 miles away from where she should have been. It's like, why was she there? Why would she do something like that? She wouldn't. Something grabbed her, took her. They didn't even release it was some, it was a mistaken error on her part. Come on, man. That doesn't make any freaking sense. A woman who's been working in the park for that long should know the ins and outs of everything in that park. Now, something happened. The poor woman got mutilated by something and was found somewhere farther away from where she should have been in the park. And that's just one instance, but I'm just trying to show that, even people of the most knowledge of the areas and the terrain and the details that are, the do's and the don'ts. Don't go here, but this place is safe. I mean, I can't a ranger, especially a female that is, I think she was up there. She was like in her late 40s, and would be doing something miles away from where she should have been. That would mutilate herself. That doesn't make any sense. And then the stories, coming out of the land between the lakes, like I said, if I would have known while I was stationed in Fort Campbell, I would have went to go check this place out and stay the night. Fuck, I'd have stayed the weekend. But I had no idea, that this even existed. I was too busy, getting my butt kicked in training and getting prepared to the sandbox. But if you lived in that area, if you know of any stories, or you have been there and witnessed anything, please let me know. I would like to hear from you. I would like to hear from you. share your story. I'm on. I just got on Facebook because I don't get a lot of people that get on YouTube. A lot of people don't have premium, so they listen to it while they're doing stuff. So it's a lot easier for people to get on Facebook, which I would, if you guys get on, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Appreciate you guys all so much for joining in and tuning in and hearing me rant and rave about this subject. Man, I hate getting all my glasses. But there are things that we can in this world of ours. Just because people see something that sounds so far-fetched, does that literally make it not true? Does that make it not credible? Or, have we become that far gone from nature that we expect everything to be rationalized by something? We have to be able to explain everything. Oh no, it was probably a black bear. It was probably a dark wolf. That we haven't something. People have to try and come up with some type of theory to be what it possibly was. Well, what if there is something out there? What if there is some creature that's lurking out in this national forest, in between these lakes, that has an abundance of natural delicacies? There's buffalo out there, there's deer. There's got to be other things for this wolf to eat, this Dogman. But if he is living there on this lake, on this man-made preserve, how is he being so hidden from nature? Obviously, he's got somewhere to stay. There's something there on the lake where he's living. He's able to get around in these areas. I'm trying to think of something. Obviously there's plenty of wooded areas. There's still structures that are there in the area. Let me see if I can pull it up. Oh. And like it says, there's still portions of this Fort Henry that 1862 from General Grant's Union troops. You've got old buildings that are there in Land Between the Lakes. You've got the old home place that's just outside of Land Between the Lakes. There's an old silo that overlooks the Land Between the Lakes. And there's a place called Hotel California that's on the Land Between the Lakes National Park. It consists of an old logging road that led to a former home site structure that is now infamously used as a hotspot for partygoers. And it looks pretty gnarly. There is a video of these guys that are going into Land Between the Lakes. There's an old home that's fenced off, and I think this is it, where they catch something that's in the window. They're not sure what it is, but they see it. Let's take a look at it and see if we can catch a glimpse of whatever the hell it is that they're looking at. Let's see. Let's check this out. Let me pause this. There we go. So this is actually from last year. He posted this. I mean, look at that thick. Anybody who's been down to that area knows how dense.
Guthrie, the Dream Poet here, coming to you all from the beautiful, pristine Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Site. Yes, you guys, I am out here in this beautiful acreage, exploring it, just seeing what all it has to offer. Which, by the way, check this out. This is Between the Lakes National Recreation Site. This is the Great 1954 by Brian Newell and Co. This steam cold blast charcoal furnace was built of limestone from the surrounding hills. Brown iron ore came from the shallow deposits about 2 miles north. Pig iron was shipped by river or hauled to rolling mills to the east. It closed in 1856 due to the lack of ore and to a slave insurrection by the furnace crew. I saw this on my way through Land Between the Lakes, and I have to see it. But I'll tell you all the real reason why I'm out. And that is because there is the story of a cryptid that haunts these hills. Or at least, so it is said. Anyway, you guys, we're going to drive through here, and we're going to talk about the story of the Land Between the Lakes, the Dogman, Land Between the Lakes. Or if you want to call him, the werewolf. Anyway, guys, let's get to it. This is going to be a rather interesting vlog to make. And before we go any further to talking about the Dogman of Land Between the Lakes, let's get back to the furnace. This is a diorama of what it looked like and how it worked. Stewart County Iron Industry area had operated from 1820 to 27. This furnace that we're about to look at, it operated to about 1858. But this goes to show how it works. There we go. This goes to show how it works. Steam pumps powered by a set of bellows and provided the blast air needed for the fire to reach 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to melt the This is really beautiful. By the way, this is called the Trace is the main road that runs all the way up and down Land Between the Lakes. It's kind of the main thoroughfare, more or less, to my understanding anyway. But before this area, I have spotted this big, giant creature standing on the riverbanks, snarling, roaring. Look at them. There is of people recording owls. When wolves in this area, wolves have not been around in this area since the late 1800s. And as well, if I were to tell you that a family got killed by a werewolf.
Like I said, if you look at how dense this forest is, it gives you a sense of the acreage that's out here and something that would be able to hide. Okay. Now, for anybody that's ever been out in the wilderness or been out in the woods or done any type of hiking, camping, training, or anything, when you're out here at night or you're just out here, period, you would probably not be able to see something that if it's dark standing right there in those bushes, you'd probably walk right by it and wouldn't even know. And that's the honest to God truth. So if something really wanted to hide in this area, I mean, what's to stop it from not being seen? It would be really hard for something to just, I mean, it's possible.
It was early August in the 1970s. There was a family who they were coming down to one of the many camping spots here at Land Between the Lakes. And they were going to have themselves some fun. They get around here about 5, 6 o'clock at night. One of the family members, he's out back shooting at tin cans. The mother and the sister, or I should say inside the camper, they're ready. And the father is off fishing. Now, the next turn of events will surprise you, faint of heart. As stated by a witness, someone who was with the family but was invited on this trip, he saw this big giant creature. It had a short snout, it had long hairy legs, and it had a musty smell about it. It begins ravaging through the camper. It kills the mother and her daughter. Some sources say the daughter was found in a tree, but by the witness who saw all this, that's not the case. She was found in the camper. Now, from the account that someone got, this was said by the witness who saw all this, it's actually a piece that was found in the tree. Now, this is a story that is told throughout the Land Between the Lakes. And there is actually...
I just wanted to get to the part where he was showing.
Speaking of the creepy and the paranormal,
this is one of the homes.
This is an abandoned house out here at Land Between the Lakes. Now, of course, it says no trespassing. So we're not going to pass. We're going to respect.
Before he starts this, I'm not sure if this is his video that got circulated around, but when he walks around this fence, keep your eyes on the upper window. Because like I said, if this is his video, I remember watching a video that was posted of the same house. Two gentlemen were fence. They were looking around in the house, and they heard something when they were under the flooring looking for stuff. They had found spoons, and they could hear footprints, like somebody in the house. They got up, looked inside, didn't find anything, got out, went and walked around the fence line. Was just showing everybody the view, but in the attic window on this house, and I think it was this one right here. I'm not sure. But there was a video circulating of some men that were looking into this house, and there was a creature standing in the window, like it shifted, it moved like out of the way. So, like I said, I'm not sure if this is the video. I don't think it is. But
of a paranormal beast,
we
find
something
the same house that is very ominous. An abandoned home, probably from families who got evicted from this area when took over and created this area. That is really, really strange. In the comments below, can you all tell me?
There's the window right there.
Like anything? Because I'm not gonna lie, I came in the moment that I entered Land Between the Lakes.
Did you see it?
I just got this really weird feeling in my...
I'll go back and look at it. Hold on. This is it. You see the eyes of it? God damn it. Zoom in. Ah. God dang it. Okay. Keep an eye on this window.
Of a paranormal beast, we find something that is very ominous. An abandoned home, probably Probably from
Why?
one of the families who got evicted. They took over,
You'll see it. It's
created
gray.
this area. That
You'll see it in the
is
darkness.
really strange. In the comments below, can you
Look at
all tell me
right up
like
in
some
that
history
window.
about this
Keep
house if
looking.
you know anything? Because I'm not gonna lie, I came in the moment that I entered
See it.
Land Between the Lakes.
See it. Let me see if I can move this screen over right here. And then what is going on? All right. All right.
That is really strange. In the comments below, me like some history about this house if you know
Inside
anything.
of that window, you'll see it. It's a gray figure
Because I'm not gonna lie.
that's standing right there. And you'll see it move. I know this doesn't have anything to do, but this guy did not catch this when he first did it. I just thought it was pretty cool.
The moment
See it?
that I entered Land Between the Lakes.
Look at it.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I came
Right
in
there. See it move? Down.
history about this house if you know anything.
Now watch this thing right.
I'm not gonna lie.
You could see it. There it is. There's a hand. There's the head.
Um,
You see now? There it is right there.
I came in the moment
There it
that
is.
I entered Land Between the Lakes.
Now you're going to see it.
I just is really weird
There it is
feeling
again.
in my
Oh, see it?
gut.
Right there. Really crazy.
Like whole time, I feel like something has been watching me,
But anyway, I thought that was pretty cool.
but I don't know what.
So as I said, it's a bunch of crazy stuff happening on this national parks and these areas. I know this is like me getting off of like talking about ancient technology and ancient civilizations, which everybody's like do more ancient technology and ancient civilization stuff. But I just wanted to touch bases on this because it really captivated my thinking and the stories that went along with it. And because like I said, I did that show on national parks and missing people, and if there are cryptids that are out um in these national parks and people are not aware of it and incidences have happened, why would the national parks be complicit in just allowing people to just continue going there. Um, it's one of those things where it's like it's messed up because they know what they're doing, and they're doing it because they need money. Um, why would they stop their cash flow from coming into these parks? It's like, well, I'm getting my money, whatever happens, happens. And there's a lot of times where you get into the national parks and there's some areas where they will tell you, do not go here. This area part of the park is closed. There's no entryway. There's, rock slides, or there was something that happened, or they are trying to get these places fixed up, yada yada yada. Um, and is it because there's things that have happened? Do they just cover up these incidences and just brush it off as something natural? Um, but as I said before, these parks are vast. You're talking about thousands and hundreds and thousands of acres of land. That's dense. That's dense forest, dense woods, you know what I mean? Where anything could hide. There could be cavern systems that run. A majority of the people that go missing in these parks, this land between the lakes is right around the area where the cave systems uh, on the East Coast in that area run. It's one of the places that's there, so it would make sense that this thing has somewhere to hide um, in the area. And like I said, who's to say that there's something where it would be able to just lurk and be unseen for a long, long time? We haven't even surveyed a vast majority of the land mass on the planet. They're still finding freaking cities in the Amazon that are covered by the dense forest there, the jungles. And you're talking about big cities that nobody's seen. But the only way that they've seen it is because they penetrated through the forest and the overgrowth with LiDAR. And it's showing these structures. Now, who's to say that they haven't been able to do something like this in the national forests, in these parks, and have found something? That would be really crazy, but like I said, I don't think it would be something that they would let the public know. I don't think it's something that they would say, "Oh, well, yeah, we know that there's something here." You know? Yeah, there is. You think they're going to tell people? Hell no. Hell no. I don't know. Pretty crazy. I think everybody's getting the Sunday blues. Not really everybody's on right now, but they'll probably end up looking at it later. So I appreciate everybody that's joining and that's following me right now. Um, give a shout out to my cousin Mike Roach. I appreciate you, cuz. I love you. Thank you. Um, yeah, thank you guys for following and looking in on the podcast. Especially like I said, I did my last episode that got almost 400 views right now was on my pre-Adamite and Epic of Gilgamesh um, episode. I think it was episode 27, 28 that I did. I appreciate everybody that, that was viewing that video and got the views up there. If you're watching the show on YouTube, um, just like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys for joining in on the podcast. Um, I try and tune in every week around this time, if not different time on Friday at 6 o'clock. But since it's Labor Day weekend and I've got the time to try and do something right now, I figured I'd jump on here and do this episode about land between the lakes and just throw it out there and get your guys' feedback and what your guys' thoughts are. Because, like I said, I mean, I don't. I've never been there. I've never. I mean, even though I've lived right down from it, I never knew anything about it. Nobody really said much of it. All I know is that people were saying something about a lake that had a town that was flooded, that was haunted, and I was like, "Wow, that's cool. Let's go check it out." But I mean, you know, never did. Um, so if you are from that area or you have seen something in that area or you know of anybody who's lived in that area, let me know. Let me know what you think or what your experiences are or have been in that area if you have any. I'd love to hear from you. Just hit me up either here on Facebook at Seeker of the Unknown or on YouTube. Same name, Seeker of the Unknown. Um, it would be good to get some insight from everybody um, about what they have seen or may have seen or do see. That would be really cool. Um, as I said before, not a lot of times that I get on here, I get some feedback, not much. I get people that do come on. Uh, I got Mad Gura. I believe that's how you say it, right? Let's see if I can. Let me see if I can get a hold of him. See if I can find him. Uh, Come on, buddy. Where are you? Who's that? Two? Is that you, buddy? Says take care, bro. I was able to catch the last bit only. Well, yeah, man. Go ahead and check me back out. You can always get on YouTube and check out the rest of the show and catch up on the episode if you need to. Uh, 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 uh. See. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah. But yeah, um, I appreciate everybody joining in and coming along for this episode. Um, it seems like um, a lot of the time we are getting um, a lot of incidences that are happening in the national parks. And like I said, I mean, I've haven't been to places like Yosemite or the national parks up north or the Sequoia National Park. But I love the outdoors. I love being able to take my kids to these places and to show them the beauty of the land that we have, and being able to show them and experience the wilderness. But at the same time, knowing what I know now, does it hinder me from being like, you know, enjoying that stuff? No, but I would say it makes me more cautious. And getting the word out there of people that love to do this stuff, and letting them know that the risk of things that happen if you do stay in places like this, or you decide to venture out and go and stay outside or stay somewhere, or decide to be, I'm going to be wild and crazy, and I'm going to do an expedition unknown type of venture into the wilderness out in these national parks or around these areas. um, Obviously you're bound to get into some sort of mischief or find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in, but um, I would really highly recommend that people take heed to what has been said about, um, these places. I mean, I like I said, I mean, it is what it is. I can't, change the fact that, people have seen these things, or people are seeing these beings, these creatures, whatever. But the thing of it is like I said, if it is happening and it is going on, what is it that the government knows about it, and why are they not making it public to the people? One reason I could only think of is because of profit. They would lose out a lot of money and funding to keep these national parks open. You got to remember, a lot of these national parks have millions of tourists that come through every year. I know Yosemite is packed with tourists. I mean, you had to drive around the fucking up and down the park just to find somewhere to freaking get a parking, because it was so many people. If and especially if you caught it on a freaking packed weekend, you have to go like during the week when it's like just tourists. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to take a day off of work during the week just to go up there and enjoy yourself. And even when you do, it's like you get there and you're just like driving around trying to freaking find somewhere to freaking park. But yeah, I mean, that's one reason I could see for sure why they would not tell people why, what's going on, or at least post something that has like hazards, camping or wandering into the woods at your own risk. um you know what I mean? And like with anything, they're going to blame it on natural circumstances. Bears, wolves, coyotes, lions, mountain lions. I mean, whatever dangerous uh, um, natural things they could think of, to end up putting the blame for these disappearances of these people or these mauling situations. Like I said, I mean, you've got people that are very experienced that go missing, that are either never seen from again, or are end up in a situation where they are becoming a government statistic, um, and just being said, well, it was an animal attack of some sort, to be done with it, and they shut it up. But you still keep getting this buffet that keeps coming through to these parks, and you're taking the chance of somebody getting hurt, disappearing, getting mauled, getting taken, disappearing, um, whatever. And I guess it becomes a thing of, well, if why wouldn't you tell everybody? Which is why, like I said, my last episode, I put this information out there because it's like, hey, check this out. Um, and, give you some food for thought to think about something. um, because like I said, in some of these stories, I mean, you hear about that guy Roger who seen the family that was taken. I mean, he had a shotgun and tried to take this thing down twice, and it didn't stop it. And that's just a story. If it is true, um, there's got to be more than one of these creatures in this land between the lakes. I mean, he can't be sustained by himself. Um, you know what I'm saying? For these past, 200-300 years or whatnot. Um, it's got to be something where there's a group of them, a male and a female, maybe some kids or whatever offspring. But that's to say, there's plenty of live animals for this thing to kill. As I showed at the beginning of the video, you have these bison that are running around. You've got abundance of bison and deer and elk that are running around in this preserve, in this national park. It would be able to survive if it needed to off of something that would be able to keep it alive, as far as like its food habits. And just because we don't see the carcasses of these dead animals a lot, or if they are being found, they're just being misconstrued as being, wolf attacks or a bear attack or whatever. And then that's it. And if these park people do know about this stuff, like I said, are they sworn to a secrecy pact where it's like, you're a government agent, you work for us, and anything or if and when anything does happen, that you need to report it to us and keep it shush. Because I can tell you right now, I know there are park rangers who have said things that they should not have said and have been let go from their positions because they said too much. There's even been people who have been interviewing park rangers, and the park rangers, after the cameras went off, the park rangers were like, "Hey, I know I said to you about this, but in reality, that's just a script. That's what we're supposed to tell people." And they begin to, say, "You might want to look into this, and you're on the right path. Don't stop." And that's where it becomes sketchy because, as I said, so much that we don't understand or we don't know, we throw it off as it's not real, it could never happen, it's just myth. But then we find out that there are really monsters. There are really things that are out there that are not explained because we just can't fathom the idea that these things are real. We've been placed into this thought process of thinking, well, this stuff is just fairy tales. It's just myth. It could never happen. It's something that is just being taught to you or being said to scare you or give you a sense of fear when you go somewhere or are doing something, yada yada yada. But is it really that? Is there something real? Are there things that are out there that are not fake, that are not mythical creatures? But because we've been told so much growing up, that these things are not real. That we've been told that, oh, well, don't believe everything you hear, or don't believe everything you read, or don't believe everything you look up. If you look at the incidences that have occurred throughout national parks or in areas that are surrounding national parks and wildernesses of people who have gone hiking, who have reported seeing, experiencing, or documenting something supernatural or unexplained, in all likelihood, it is something that links to other stories of what people have seen and give a similar account of what they have saw or what they saw. Yeah. So as I said before, If you have ever experienced anything, I don't care if it's that land between the lakes, if you have seen anything, if you've experienced something similar to or related to this incident in national parks, while you've been camping, while you've been out at somebody's anywhere, of a cryptid, of a creature that you can't explain, please let me know. Get back to the podcast, write me on Facebook or on YouTube and say, hey, I got this story. I'd like to hit you up. Or just, I would like you to hit me up on Facebook. Look up on Seeker of the Unknown. Get on my page, comment on there, leave me a message on there to get back to you, and we'll discuss it, and we'll talk about any of these uh, incidences that you guys might have regarding cryptid encounters or supernatural encounters of something you can't explain while you've been out hiking or been out camping or anything like that. But as I said before, thank you guys all for coming and joining me on the podcast. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. I hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. I got a good chance to spend some time with my wife, just her and I, and the little one. She's still little, so we're never really alone. But it's always good to have them around, and have some time just for ourselves and stuff. But I pray that everybody was safe and that everybody is sound, and that you all keep an open mind. And remember, on this podcast, I don't criticize or put down anybody. Everybody has different thoughts and beliefs on topics and on whatever we discuss or whatever I discuss on this podcast and the episodes that I put out. And I'm not forcing anything on anybody. All I'm saying is check it out. This is the stuff that I put out there for everybody to look at, do your own research, and uh, do your own diligence by looking up the information for yourself and realize that we are not alone on this planet. This planet is too vast and too big for us to just say that we are the only things that are out here walking around inhabiting this planet. And if there is things that are out there walking around that are secret and hidden out of the obscurity of humanity, um, they've got a lot of area to be able to hide themselves and to be able to shelter themselves. So, like I said, get back to me, message me if you've had any experiences or you know of anything or you've seen anything or anything that you can relate to anything that we were talking to about in episode 29 and then this episode 30 about cryptids or experiences while out in the wilderness. And I'll get back to you guys. Hopefully we'll see each other again the sometime this week. Um, it'll probably be on a Friday. We'll see how it goes. But till then, you guys be safe. Have a good time. Um, and remember, always look into the unknown. Never take everything for what you're being told as face value. Always do the research yourself and check it out and look things up and question everything and, seek the truth in everything that you're looking at and expand your knowledge and your insight into everything that you look up and we discuss here, especially the information I put out there. Like I said, I put it out there just for you to have to gain your knowledge base and to get you to think and to look and to research into things that you might not be thinking about. So till then, next time I see you guys later. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.